DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into a special edition of the FL1 betting podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo and Jim Sinicropi here with you. Coming up in the next couple of days, we have our first edition of the College Football Playoff quarterfinal round, featuring 4 of these 6 New Year's Day, or, well, aren't truly that anymore, bowl games, but 6 of the classic bowl games, or 4 of the 6, rather, in there with that. So we'll preview those games, take a look at some of the best bets and options out there, and kind of give you guys, hopefully, a little bit of help trying to look into what these games potentially have to offer. But first, I think a couple more of our sponsors here for the podcast, including Finger Lakes Partners Insurance. Get the insurance you need from the people you know at Finger Lakes Partners Insurance, the Finger Lakes Insurance Agency for your home, auto, or business. Get no obligation quote today at fingerlakesinsurance.com, and Lil John and Barbie Orthodontics. Dr. Lil John, Dr. Barbie, and their outstanding orthodontic team share a common goal to ensure the overall wellness of each of their patients through their exceptional orthodontic care. You can check out Dr. Odd and Dr. Liz online at liljohnortho.com. So, normally, Jim, this is where I come in and we take a look at the bets and everything, but it's a special edition. We don't have to worry about any sort of bankroll or anything like that. We just get to look at the games, these teams.
Yeah,
what
we don't
what's
look at like
going
last
on.
week's results?
No, not today.
Okay,
I decided
that's
not
fine.
to because we still have a couple more bets out in the ether on the bet card for tonight because Monday Night Football is
Oh,
tonight.
yeah,
So.
yeah, good point, good point. I know that I got screwed by Miami and Cam Ward, who opted out at halftime.
Yeah.
Who opts out at halftime?
Look, I know the whole opt-out thing, and it's a touchy subject. I'm not going to sit here and run away from the fact of that. My main thing that I go back to with this is either you're in or you're out. Tell me which way
Man,
you're
once
going
the
to
game
be.
started, you don't make that decision
Exactly.
at halftime. I would have never bet Miami. Like Cam Ward said he was going to put on a show.
Yeah.
Well, that cost me that bet.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people too, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I've seen stuff where it's like, well, the people who knew. And I'm like, well, Mario Cristobal's not exactly doing a great job of making that known then.
Yeah, I would have liked to known.
Yeah.
But stupid. And, this opt-out stuff is so stupid. But what are you going to do? I mean, a lot of things people don't realize is like, okay, if a guy's going to transfer, and the elite guys like Cam Ward or they're going to NFL draft, that's a different argument. But if you're transferring to another school, you got to move and get housing and register for classes and all that stuff before the next semester starts. So I can understand that to some extent, but something needs to change, and I think it will. But it's tough. It's a capitalism. It's free, markets. So if a guy wants to leave and take his services somewhere else, like in this new NIL world, it's tough to make rules to stop him.
Yeah. And, it's all about the money, but yet they follow the academic calendar.
Right. So it's a dichotomy. It's
a no-win situation for, frankly, the kids.
Yeah.
But
you got certain guys like Kyle McCord.
It's true.
He could have opted out and said, "Look, I'm going to have a chance to play in the NFL or whatever is next for him, and why risk injury?" Same thing with everybody on Syracuse. But you know what? They played because they're a team and they wanted to win. Yeah. And there's other examples of that too. But then you get guys like Cam Ward. That's like, I'm not going to come out for the second half. Like, I didn't watch it. Was he like on the sideline even?
No, he was still in his pads and everything. It was just
You know what? It should have been lucky.
totally weird seeing them in a spot where it's like. And now, if I was his coach, and I'm looking at it from the hypothetical of he just did this at halftime, like I'm not putting him back in that spot. But like, it's
you're doing what? I'm like, okay,
Right,
see you later. There's the door. Take off your uniform. You're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so crazy too, to be in a close game, in a bowl game that supposedly means something, and you got your All-American quarterback. The ace. What record did he set for touchdown passes? The ACC, or was it?
I think it's NCAA.
Yeah,
that one's NCAA. Yeah.
And so he's just going to sit there and watch
Yeah.
as his team loses. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's bad for sports, which is one thing about the college football playoffs, I think, that is actually a nice side benefit. Everybody's playing in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's opting out of these games, right? For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked a little bit off air. The only people who are out have been, say, a backup on one team, or in the case of, and we'll get more into depth on this game because it to me it shapes how I'm approaching the game anyway. You look at Carson Beck, who was out because he had to get Tommy John surgery because his
legitimate injury though, not an opt out, but
right,
it is somebody.
Right,
but,
exactly. The only people out are the only people out who are legitimately out.
But the backup did come in and beat Texas in the SEC championship.
Correct.
So you know that he can play. I'm not, and Beck hasn't had a great season. So I mean, I'm not an issue to me when evaluating that game.
Well, unfortunately, that's the last game we're getting to because I have this set up in chronological order of what we're getting to. So that begins New Year's Eve with the Fiesta Bowl. Been going on since 1971. Penn State, the 6th seed, against the 3-seeded Boise State Broncos. Penn State, 11.5-point favorites. Your money line situation, Penn State at -500. Broncos at +360. Your over-under, 53.5. Penn State coming in with a 12-2 record on the year. This is their 54th overall bowl appearance, coming in with a current record of 31-20-2 in these bowl games. Boise State 12-1 on the year. This is their 22nd bowl appearance, 13-8 overall. In terms of Fiesta Bowl, this is the 8th all-time appearance for Penn State. They're 7-0. Their last appearance, 2017, a 35-28 win against Washington. Boise State, their 4th appearance all-time in the Fiesta Bowl. 2014 was their last appearance, a 38-30 win against Arizona. This is their first time these two teams will ever be facing each other head-to-head.
They do have a common opponent this year, though.
They do.
And it was Oregon, interestingly enough. And Boise State, back on September 7th, only lost by 3.
Yep. In fact, outside of that Ohio State game, which more on that obviously in a second, that was the closest really game all year that Oregon had outside of that Wisconsin game as well. So pretty interesting stuff there. It's interesting. Boise State, I don't know if necessarily you can think certain teams with certain bowls, but at least for my generation, Boise State is the Fiesta Bowl because I grew up with that 2007 edition of that game, which is what kind of put Boise State
against Oklahoma, was it?
Yep, against Oklahoma.
That was a heck of a game.
The Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
That more or less put Boise State on the map, right? And now we're at the point where they have the longest streak in the nation, 27 straight winning seasons above 500.
And they have the nation's leading rusher.
Yeah, and Ashton Genty.
A 192 a game he averages. I mean, that's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's rushing. That's not all-purpose yards. That's rushing yards.
To the point that James Franklin, for better or worse, how you feel about him, had to correct a reporter in the media pool yesterday when they said that Genty's one of the best running backs in this past season, and James Franklin, in my mind, correctly said, no, he's one of the best running backs in college football history.
Yeah.
As it stands right now. It's crazy. This is interesting. Penn State 7-7 against the spread this season. Boise State 7-6 against the spread.
Yeah, I like Boise State plus 11. Give them to me.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll win outright. I want Boise State to win outright.
Oh, me too. So bad. There's
But,
not many schools I hate more than Penn
correct.
State.
I'm with you there. Obviously. But yeah, 11.5, I think for Penn State, it's going to be a lot to kind of cover. that record indicates it, right? They're a 500 team against the spread this year. I remember for me, I jumped on a lot of spreads against Penn State this year. The main one that always sticks on my mind is that Illinois game where they were 21.5-point favorites, won by 14. It was a 21-7 game. It was an ugly game, Big Ten kind of classic, just we're going to meet you in the trenches type game. And that kind of epitomizes, to me anyway, Nittany Lion football this year more than anything else.
Yeah, and so you got a great running attack, and Boise State has a good quarterback in Maddox Madsen. He doesn't make many mistakes. He only threw 3 interceptions all year.
Yeah,
and 22 touchdown passes. Boise's not necessarily a one-trick pony. No matter how many years Boise State continues to produce high-caliber football teams, they still, in terms of the betting public, feel like underdogs. And I can't imagine getting 11 points to Penn. Like, what's Penn State done?
Exactly. And that's been kind of the knock on them all year.
Yeah.
Right? So.
What's Penn State done except ruin the potential for an Northeastern football conference?
Exactly. Now, I will say they did what they had to do and did it pretty convincingly against SMU, but that is the case with every one of the teams that did have to play in that opening round. So remains to be seen. I guess
we're home. This is neutral.
Yeah, I guess it depends how you view it. Obviously, Penn State, like I brought up, no stranger at least to the setting of the Fiesta Bowl. It's just one of those things where I do think they went outright, but I don't see them covering that 11.5. Hard time believing it.
I'm probably going to do some sort of bet where I take Boise State and on a series of point spreads, including money line. Because I think Boise State can win this game. Matter of fact, I think Boise State will win this game. Again, don't listen to me. I'm biased. I hate Penn State, and but I've seen it before with Penn State.
Yeah.
Like Penn State is a team that never lives up to the hype. A team that never cashes the checks that were written for them. And I don't see why this will be any different.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially, at least for me, Penn State, we probably don't give them the flack they outright deserve. I mean, I know for me, I think it's just because I enjoy needling people more than anything else in a sense. I always talk about how Notre Dame hasn't done anything since 1988. They love talking about how they have 15 games of the century and stuff like that. But, outside of 1990, 3 or whatever it was, what's Penn State done in 30 years? Not a ton.
Nothing.
So, hey, I guess it kind of depends. And like I said, first ever meeting between these two teams, period. It's a good way to get the college football playoff quarterfinal kicked off, I'd say.
And this one's going to be a New Year's Eve game.
Yep.
The other 3 are New Year's Day or
Correct.
Evening. New Year's evening, New Year's Day night.
So let's fast forward to noon on New Year's Day because that features the Peach Bowl. Texas, Arizona State, the 4 seed, 11-2 on the year, coming in as the Big 12 conference title champion. Tripped up on that one.
Sun
Texas, 12-2 on the year. For Arizona State, this is their 34th bowl appearance. They're 15-17-1. Texas, their 57th appearance, coming in at 31-24-1 in those bowl games. This will be the first ever appearance in the Peach Bowl for the Longhorns. For Arizona State, this is their second appearance in the Peach Bowl. Their first, though, however, have to go all the way back to 1970, a 48-26 win against UNC. This is their second all-time meeting between the Longhorns and Arizona State head-to-head. First meeting 2007 in the Holiday Bowl, Texas 52, Arizona State 34. So, two teams that have very little notebook against each other, obviously very redundant anyway because it's college athletics, turnovers there. Arizona State, 11-2 against the spread in 2024. That was tied for the second best in the country.
Yeah, well, they were picked to be last place in the Big 12, and they end up having this type of season. It's really great to see.
Yeah.
Which is why they beat the spread because everybody thought they're no good, and they kept winning. And even this spread might be too much. They're underrated, but you know what? I think it does end here for Arizona State. I think that Texas wins. Whether they win by what's it? You got 13.5.
So when I did my notes for this, which was last night, mind you, I got Texas minus 12.5. Money line is the same as the Fiesta Bowl, Texas at -500, Arizona State plus 360. The over-under I got at 51.5 on my notes.
I'd probably lay off of this game because I don't have a lot of faith in Texas either. We saw it in the SEC championship game. They lost to a backup quarterback in the second half, and in a really big game for them. I think Texas will win, but I don't feel comfortable laying that many points. So I'm probably I'm probably backing off on that one.
And look, for what it's worth, it's not the worst record on here for what I'm about for, against the spreads. Texas 8-6 against the spread this year. Obviously not great by any means, but it puts them, at least in the 4 teams we've talked about here so far, second in that category. But it's tough. Yeah, this game's I don't know if it's a tougher read. I feel like Texas can cover that 12.5 potentially, more so than say I would have faith in Penn State covering the 11.5 against Boise State. It's just a tough one because Kyle Dillingham, second season with the Sun Devils, has done really well. Kind of gained that program resurrected from, frankly, the actual ashes. This was a program that was DOA for a couple of years in the final years of the Pac-12 because Herm Edwards and the athletic department, frankly, probably got lucky that nobody gets the death penalty anymore. It was a doormat program for a couple of years, and the turnaround they've had has been quick, and it's been really good. And this is a great, in my mind, exclamation mark for the program so far for what he's done. I just unfortunately think it comes to an end against Texas. And it's tough because you want to talk about a team I also don't really love. Texas is one of them. But for the sake of making money, you got to like your enemies sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, I'm laying off this game, but I think Texas wins. This is a game I have the least opinion on.
Yeah, I agree with you pretty good there. So let's move on to the granddaddy of them all, the middle game of our New Year's Day bowl games, the Rose Bowl.
Big Ten versus Big Ten. The Rose was like, there's no Pac-10 anymore.
Yep.
Used to always be Pac-10, Big Ten.
Yeah.
The granddaddy.
Yep. But
stupid.
In this situation, you can't ask for a potentially better matchup. Number 1, Oregon, 13-0 on the year. This is their 9th appearance all-time in the Rose Bowl against number 8 seeded Ohio State, 11-2 on the year, 17th appearance all-time in the Rose Bowl. This is huge. This is their 12th all-time meeting between the two teams in Ohio State and Oregon. 3rd time meeting in the Rose Bowl. I know what you said, Jim, but this is one of those ones where it's like, this is what those bowl games mean. And in this, format, the way it is, it just means more. And it's exciting to see. This is frankly the bowl game I'm probably the most excited for in this quarterfinal round, just because of the two teams going at each other, the history of the bowl, the history of those two teams in the bowl. It's pretty big.
Well, you got two teams playing in the same conference. Mm-hmm. One of them has 2 losses, the other has 0, and the team with 0 is 3-point underdogs. Like, what sense does that make? Yep. Give me the Ducks +3. Give me the Ducks on the money line. Give me the Ducks -3. Give me the Ducks -6. Yeah. I'll bet it like a whole spectrum. I think that Oregon wins this game. I think it's a slight that they'll use as a motivational factor, that they're underdogs. They played head-to-head. The Ducks it was a close game. Bad clock management by Ohio State probably cost them the game, but the Ducks outgained them on the ground in that game by about 30 yards. I like Oregon. And again, I'm a little bit jaded. I'm not a fan of Ohio State. I'm not a fan of any of these schools that just think that they're so freaking special. Mm-hmm. Great. You're giant state schools like Penn State, in Texas, and Ohio State. Like, whatever, man. Taxpayer-funded behemoths that don't like them.
Yeah, I hate Ohio State for different reasons altogether.
And I want to
So,
see Oregon just end their season, make stupid Ryan Day and their fan base.
yeah,
Ugh.
that's really what it is for me. It's the fan base where it's like send them off into the moon.
We're talking about betting here.
Yeah.
You should all that stuff should be set aside, but I just can't do it. And if I'm going to be watching the game, I'm going to be rooting for Oregon. I think Oregon will win,
Yeah.
but I want Oregon to win.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bet that way and hopefully enjoy a nice, good old fashioned butt whipping. I would love to see Ohio State just get their freaking butt kicked.
For Ohio State, their 48th overall appearance in a bowl game, 24-23. Oregon's 35th. They're 16-18 right now. Yeah, you mentioned game in October this year, 32-31 win for Oregon. In the Rose Bowl, though, these two teams I mentioned, this is their third all-time meeting. Ohio State up 2-0 on the Ducks in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State also
Rose Bowl. I mean, it's
I
in the
know,
Rose Bowl. They'll have the parade and all that stuff, but this is a playoff game. Freaking Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl. I mean, it's different.
Hey, I know. I'm just, you gotta get number. You gotta get information any way you can.
Yeah, it is in the Rose Bowl, and it is the Rose Bowl, I suppose.
Yeah.
Two Big Ten teams playing in the Rose Bowl this year. Like everything's different.
Well, this bowl game, the final one on New Year's Eve at 8:45 at night.
Yeah.
This one's a bit of a classic one, sort of. You got number
Is
two.
this a Sugar Bowl?
It is the Sugar Bowl. The number 2 seeded Georgia Bulldogs against the number 7 seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Irish coming in with a 12-1 record on the year. Georgia at 11-2. This is the Fighting Irish's 5th all-time appearance in the Sugar Bowl. 2-2. Their last one coming in 2007, a loss against LSU. For Georgia, 12th appearance all-time in the Sugar Bowl. 5-6 in them, but beating Baylor in 2020 in their last appearance there. This is their 4th all-time meeting between the two teams. Georgia leads the series 3-0. Last meeting was 2019, a 23-17 win for Georgia in Athens. This is their 2nd meeting all-time in the Sugar Bowl. Their only meeting before 1980, a 17-10 win for Georgia. That is their last national title before the most recent stretch, by the way, was clinched in that game. MVP that game, Jim. Any guesses for Georgia?
What game was this?
1980 against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl that clinched the national title for the Bulldogs that year.
It wasn't Herschel Walker in 1980.
Well, don't overthink it.
What was it?
It was Herschel
1980?
Walker. Yep.
Yeah, I guess it was. Then he went to the Vikings and the Cowboys.
And the USFL.
Oh, the USFL. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no kidding. That definitely was Herschel Walker. For whatever reason, I think of Herschel Walker as more like 1984.
That's true. That's fair.
But it was 1980.
Yeah. Vince Dooley, head coach for Georgia then. I believe, is it still Dan Devine for Notre Dame at that point? I think it might have been, but I could be off by a couple of years either way. But, look, this one's a little bit more of a classic matchup, too, as I mentioned. Yeah. This one I'm excited about for different reasons. It's probably like the second one for me where I'm like, in terms of whatever, this one has the most intrigue to me because of like the Carson Beck injury. Notre Dame, this is, more than likely going to be the toughest opponent they've really seen all year, or at least since the start of the year against Texas A&M, which they did beat. For Georgia, like we mentioned, without Carson Beck, they're running with Gunnar Stockton under center. I think this one's going to be a bit of a slugfest more than the other ones, if I'm being completely honest. I kind of view this one as a bit of a heavyweight fight.
We saw that Georgia's quarterback can get the job done, right?
Yeah,
in the second half of Texas game. And then since then, now he's had a whole, month to prepare as a starting quarterback.
Yep.
I don't see that being an issue. I can't get over with Notre Dame that they lost at home to Northern Illinois.
True.
I mean, so I'm taking Georgia on that alone. And keep in mind, SEC is the best conference in the country, right?
Well, yeah. Sure.
Well, they won it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, in Notre Dame, independent, holier than thou, cocky, another team that ruined Northeast football in a way. I mean, the Big East Football Conference could have been a great conference, if Notre Dame had come on board, which back then, there's no chance they would. Now they're doing the same thing in the ACC, and it's they're a joke. They're poison. Notre Dame is poison to any other conference they come in contact with. And guess what? Those days are over, you guys. In Notre Dame, I don't know how long that NBC conference or television contract will last in this new world. Younger fans don't remember Notre Dame as being special.
No, I mean, I brought it up. I mean, for me, I frankly know them as probably being, I mean, I know you mentioned with Penn State, but for me, Notre Dame is the choke artist more than anything else.
And so why would this be different? Like this is
you.
just set up for them to just, that they're always overrated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got 2 losses, Georgia Tech and Northern Illinois, right?
No, just Northern Illinois.
Oh, just the one loss, Northern Illinois? Georgia Tech game was close?
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking that, but anyways, overrated, underachieving. This year will be no different. I'll take Georgia -2.
It's interesting. Georgia's 4-9 against the spread this year. 4-9. Notre Dame 10-2-1 against the spread. Top 5 in the nation against the spread this year.
Good defense, right?
So, yeah. And that's why I think it's going to be a slugfest. This is the closest line out of all of them. Georgia at 1.5 I got right now as a favorite. Money line's the closest out of the bunch as well. It's the lowest over-under total-wise at 45.5. I view this being low-scoring defensive. Like I said, I think it's a bit of a slugfest game. And
under.
I think the under is the safest play in this game, to be honest. If I had to pick a team, it pains me. Like I said, sometimes you got to pick your enemies in order to make money. I think I'm going Notre Dame, if I'm being honest.
It's okay. I'll go with Georgia. I like a money line parlay. Boise State, which is incredible odds. Boise State, Texas, Oregon, Georgia.
Yeah.
4-team money line. If Boise State wins that first leg on Tuesday night, oh boy. And I think it's a joke that they're given 11 points. Like, boy, what disrespect for Boise State.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona State, I can see it. They're kind of the new kid on the block. Coming on, but Boise State is consistently year to year a top level national program. So yeah, I'll do a money line parlay. Boise State, Texas, Oregon, Georgia.
All right. I know you mentioned a little bit off air, Jim. I'll bring it up here before we head out. Any other bowl games kind of really catch your attention, or is it kind of just now with the CFP quarterfinal?
I looked at him, and who knows? Like, I don't want to go through the trouble of seeing who's opted in and who opted out, and then it doesn't even matter half the time. You hear all these, these games are stupid. The only bowl game that mattered was the Holiday Bowl.
Hey, yeah.
Even that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple interesting ones that are taking place tomorrow. That just kind of
LSU Baylor.
Well, I was going to say Alabama Michigan for kind of all the wrong reasons is.
Yeah, well, I would like to see Michigan beat Alabama just to shut up all these Alabama fans, but I don't know who's opted in, who's opted out. Like, if you're Alabama, don't a lot of people opt out of that game?
I know Milroe's playing. I do know that, so I don't know.
Michigan's just not that good, but they beat Ohio State.
Right.
In Ohio State, in Columbus.
The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, which is kind of one of the classicer ones, just with a funny, gimmicky sponsor on it. But South Carolina, Illinois, that's actually a pretty good matchup. Nobody's opted out really out of that game either. Lenore Sellers, who's going to be one of the odds-on Heisman guys, I think, going into next year.
Boring.
With that, I'm just kind of pointing that out there. Duke Ole Miss.
It would be better if they did an NIT tournament.
Somebody brought that up. I saw somebody did a draw-up of that, and Syracuse would have been in it, which would have been nice.
Yeah, we would have probably won it.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
You know what? Then do that tournament like in December, and then let the winner get into the other tournament.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The only other 2 bowl games catching my attention of any sort: Duke Ole Miss in the Gator Bowl. You say blah, I know. And then the only one I kind of want to bring up, shout out to some quasi locality here: Buffalo UB. They have the last non-playoff bowl game on Saturday against Liberty, the Bahamas Bowl.
I mean, everybody's going to be tuned in.
And if you want to talk about a school that has no actual bearing on my life, and I freaking hate. It's liberty. Can't stand anything that an institution stands for.
Oh, God.
Can't the Falwells.
Oh,
Screw them.
yeah, that's true.
And so I hope Buffalo, I hope the
Buffalo,
Bulls
New York's
go in
college
there
team.
and freaking roll the Flames, put out that fire. And,
Dude, we can't bet on them.
I know.
We can't bet on them.
I'm just saying. God.
If you're looking for some action this weekend, the PGA Tour is back. The Century Tournament of Champions. And I like betting golf and small field events. Everybody that's in this tournament won last year. That's the only way you can get in. So I don't know what the field is, probably 30 to 35.
Yeah, let me try and pull up some info.
Scotty Scheffler's not playing so that opens it up a little bit.
Didn't he just have surgery too or something? Or?
No, Scheffler punctured his hand on Christmas Day cooking.
Yeah.
Cooking dinner, he punctured his hand. But there's a lot of long shots that I think have a chance. One of the longest shots is Davis Riley.
Yeah, I mean, let's see here. I got at least for the favorite, we got Xander at 5-1, and then I mean you got
Justin Thomas, Louis Vig Edberg.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's just kind of
it's pretty like you said, it's a pretty short field,
pretty wide open.
Hey, Seb Straka.
Yeah, I like Seb.
My guy Steve Jagerbaum's out there at 100-1. I mean,
Knapp is one of the longest shots, and he just won the tournament where you play with the LPGA player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean he's playing all right. I mean, I don't know. I think it's up for grabs. So if you want to throw $5 on a long shot, you might make a few $100.
Yeah,
or at least enjoy watching it.
Let's see here, down at the bottom, we got
Davis Riley.
Yeah, Davis Riley. Oh, he's not the longest odds at the moment.
Yeah, Peter Malnati.
Yeah,
Peter Malnati's not going to win.
But yeah, Davis Riley at
could
750-1. I mean,
it's crazy. And
we've seen crazier.
Yeah, now look, and again, it's like a wide open course at Kapalua where you just bomb it and it rolls forever and there's not much trouble. It's a different type of game. I just think some of these odds on the long shots are crazy. I mean, I don't know who's going to win, but I know that if they played that tournament 750 times, Davis Riley would win more than once. I tell you that right now.
You're giving me even like Homa and Zalatoris at 65-1.
Yeah.
Matt Fitzpatrick too is right there.
I know that's the problem. Who do you choose? There's so many.
I mean,
you might want to wait till the first round is underway and then, if Davis Riley. But I don't know. It's just making a note that PGA Tour is back.
Yep.
For the real season now. The fall season's over, and this is kind of the start of. There's some good tournaments in January and February, and golf betting is difficult, but it can yield some big payouts.
For sure. What a way to kick off the new year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get back into the swing of it.
Yep. Kicking off Thursday in Hawaii. And in primetime golf, too, is fun.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, I like it when it can lead. That's why it's one of my reasons I love the Waste Management, because it just leads right into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
For example, so can't beat it. So good to see. Good stuff. I got pretty much everything info-wise out for the Bulls, so I think that's a podcast on.
Well, make your picks.
Oh, I thought we kind of quasi did that.
Yeah, I guess you did, but what will you actually play?
So I'm doing Boise State plus 11.5. I gotta stay away from anything Peach Bowl wise unless I just parlay it up with something. Rose Bowl, I'm going to do Oregon pretty much every way. I think like you, I can kind of get for sure.
Nice.
And then
you're with Notre Dame.
I'm with Notre Dame, but my favorite bet, and that's the under 45.5. So that's
so small points in a college football game.
Yeah, but for a couple of teams, I think it's going to be a slugfest anyway. I don't mind that.
Okay.
And then you said you're doing the parlays, right? The money line?
I'm going to do a money line parlay just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Starting off with Boise State. So if that first leg hits, I might be getting some cash out options. Right. But I do like Boise State with the points. I don't love anything about the Peach Bowl. I think Texas wins. That's a lot of points.
Yeah.
If the line dropped below 10, maybe I'd take Texas. It could be a route, though.
Mm.
And then I like Oregon. Look, you're going to give me an undefeated Big Ten championship team. You're going to give me 3 points? I mean, come on. And then, I'll take Georgia just because I like rooting, because I don't like Notre Dame. What are you going to do?
I mean, if you're forcing me into a pick for the Peach Bowl, I guess I'm just doing Texas. I'll lay the points and kind of shut up and move on it. But I'm not a fan. I'm like you. I'm not a fan of a lot in that game in terms of actual betting. So, although if you could,
who plays in the championship when it's all said and done? I got Oregon and Texas probably. Imagine Boise State getting there.
I did a bracket, and both teams are still alive in it, so I got to stick with it. I got Oregon and Notre Dame. But
wait a second.
In pools, you got to think to be different. But
I don't have the brackets in front of me, so could if Boise State wins, who would they play?
They play the winner of Notre Dame and Georgia.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy.
Yeah.
Next time you see us in the studio, it'll be 2025.
That's right. We'll see everybody next year.
We'll fly in. We'll get here in our flying cars.
Yes. Yeah. Hoverboards and everything too. Thursday we'll be back normal with our normal podcast setup and everything like that. Get everybody ready for week 18 of the NFL, and who knows, maybe a bit more. Well, I mean, we'll know who will be playing in the semifinals anyway at that point for the CFP, but that'll still be another 10 days out at that point.
Yeah.
So, we'll at least be back at it and ready to go, though, Thursday afternoon for our regularly scheduled podcast. So,
sounds good.
Looking forward to that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening to this special edition of the FL1 Betting Podcast, a little college football playoff quarterfinal preview. Can make sure to find us on all major podcasting platforms, including Amazon and Spotify. Like, share, subscribe on the fingerlakes1.com YouTube channel, and we will be back again, like I said, Thursday. Good luck to everybody in your bets for tomorrow and New Year's Day. We'll talk again in a few days.
Happy New Year.